Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Joining me once again is my good friend Bob Kudla from Trade Genius Academy. Bob, how are you, brother?
I'm doing good, Red. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I am ready to get to the end of this lockdown. I know it's only days, maybe weeks away. Hopefully they don't extend it again. Obviously, something crazy is happening out in California, but we'll get to that in a minute. For anybody watching who is not aware of you or Trade Genius, please tell them what it is you guys do.
Yeah, so what we do is we educate and we inform and we help people become better traders in the stock market, futures, and for cryptocurrencies. And what we've developed over many years is a system we call the profit ribbon system. And it's designed to look at price action with momentum. And it finds opportunities for us that have a high probability for profit. And then you take the trade over a short period of time. And then it tells you when the momentum is waning and you take profit and you move on to the next trade. We do it in three parts. One is that we definitely educate you. We have basically a 12-lesson course when you become a client that basically walks you through from what is a chart all the way through how to trade using the system. Very straightforward, very easy to learn. And then beyond that, what we do, we put the trade signals actually even on a computer software that you have access to, that you can actually see the buy and sell signals as they occur for stocks that you may want to trade beyond what we trade. And then we have a trading room that's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for you to interact with myself and or other fellow traders. And then finally, we actually can throw trades out at you too. So every day we're putting trades out into the marketplace and for you to take advantage of. So we teach you how to fish, we provide you the fishing equipment, and then we actually throw you some fish too. It works really well. I sent you some comments of how people use the system. If you ever want to throw those up on your site, you can see how people use it and what they think of us, how we work, and it's a really good system. And if people want to take advantage of it, I put specials out for you, Red, like I always do. For Saturday night, take advantage of 65% off. If they take advantage of it before what is Saturday? Is the 16th at midnight or 17th at midnight, something like that. And you get a really good deal on our pricing.
All right, good stuff. That link is in the description below. So, we always talk about what's going on in the financial world and, the world at large. The biggest news for me right now, Bob, is the fact that Senator Richard Burr has been served a warrant. We have talked about this before. He was part of a special task force that was getting inside information about the potential for damage with CV-19, the Rona. And he went and said one thing to the public, told people not to worry, told them not to get out of the market. Privately, I think he held like a little mini press conference with several of his friends and said this is going to be like 1918. And then he and other people in Congress went and sold maybe not hundreds, millions of dollars, at least tens of millions of dollars of stock amongst each other. So there's him, Kelly Loeffler, James Inhofe, and Diane Feinstein. All are known to have done this. Burr is the first one to have his cell phone seized. Also, he's had a warrant served on his iCloud data. So they've gone to Apple and they've gotten perhaps anything he might have deleted, any communication with private individuals, his friends, his family, with his broker. This is unprecedented. I think it's something that many people have been very upset when they hear about this happening. It seemed to be the norm. People in Congress would get this information, they would act on it, they would get rich. People like you and me, we wouldn't know about it. Maybe you had a more of an inside scoop just because of your program, but people like me, we wouldn't have the inside scoop on this, and we would lose money. I've known plenty of people who lost a lot of money in this particular economic downturn. How big of a message do you think this is with the FBI and the DOJ going after Senator Burr?
Oh, I think it's huge. And, the fact that Republican DOJ is going after a Republican senator is telling to me, because what that's signaling all throughout the political sphere is that you're not safe. And we'll see what Well, Richard Burr probably will plead to something, I'm sure. But now they go after Feinstein, and they go after somebody that are Democrat. Look, just because you know these four, everybody does this.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, look, it's not just the COVID thing. These guys would be sitting in committee meetings, right, with lobbyists, and they'll walk out of those committee meetings, and staffers will go ahead and buy the stock of a company they know is going to get approved through legislation, and they'll front run that stuff for weeks. They'll be sitting on a stock that may not move, and next thing you know it gets approved and it doubles. And you don't get a chance to get it, but people have been in it for weeks, and vice versa. When they blew up the coal industry, I guarantee you people were shorting coal in those committee meetings well ahead of the global warming shutdown legislation that they were promulgating. And it's not just legislation. If you're inside a bureaucracy and they're going to target a certain business, i.e., hey, they're going after Amazon with a national tax or something like that, the staffers walk out of there and they make money. So I think it's a pervasive corruption, and good thing your detector was turned on, because I think this is huge. This is part of, I think, Trump, blowing up the swamp, and he's been getting a lot more aggressive, if you notice, these last days.
Yes, he has. Yes, he has. Now, President Trump actually commented on people shorting the market the other day, too. I mean, what do you think about the ability that we have to place those kind of bets? I mean, people betting against the success of America and its companies, its businesses, and getting rich off of it, and especially if it's a congressman doing it. I mean, they really have the inside scoop on this stuff. And for them to say, oh, yeah, well, I know that this is going to take a downturn. I'm just going to say, bet that it does take a downturn and then, make hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, I don't have a problem per se with shorting the markets, but you need what they call the liquidity. You need people on both sides of the bet to keep the market from swinging one direction or the other. I do have a really big problem with people that are in a position to influence the stock price of a particular company and be able to bet one way or another against it. That's where I have a really big problem. And that's not even insider trading. You could just go ahead and short an industry, and then over the next couple months, you're in a position to shut that industry down. Mm-hmm. So, that's where I have a big issue with. They should be like Trump. Anybody that goes to Congress and their family, everything should be in a lockbox. It should be third-party managed, blind management, and that'll end the game. Because look at Nancy Pelosi. She's been in Congress her whole life. She's worth what, $30 or $40 million or more?
Yeah, on paper. That's what she just tells people.
Yeah, how do you make that kind of money?
Yeah.
Making $100,000, $200,000 a year living in California, and you have to have two homes. Mm-hmm. You need one in D.C. Look at AOC. I'm not an AOC fan, but she's barely surviving on her congressional pay because she has to keep a home in New York and a home in D.C., two very expensive areas. Mm-hmm. So how does Nancy Pelosi be able to turn that trick into a $40 million net worth?
Yeah, no, it's pretty suspicious, and I think it's really obvious. Especially because it's not just Nancy Pelosi getting rich. Her husband is also getting rich. They have businesses together. They have partnerships with people. You look at Diane Feinstein specifically and her special relationship with China. Over how many decades was Diane Feinstein doing business with China, or perhaps passing messages and selling information through her driver? I'm sure that Diane Feinstein's just the only one who got caught in a situation like that. How many other Democrats or Republicans out there are selling out America in that same way?
Oh, no. I totally agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, the next thing I wanted to talk about was this insane lockdown in LA. Apparently, because of the Rona, they're going to be locked down for another 3 months. Are they trying to implode California's economy? It's nearly bankrupt as it is right now. But I would imagine another 3 months with nothing happening, no economic activity virtually, that's going to be enough to push it over the edge. It's like a powder keg just waiting to ignite.
Yeah, look, I think that was a bridge too far. When he announced that, I guess the blowback against Garcetti was so intense that he had to jump on CNN and try to explain away what he meant. So they're already backpedaling pretty hard. Orange County, where I live, just south of LA, is basically civil disobedience is becoming the norm.
Good.
The sheriffs are not going to enforce any lockdown rules whatsoever. Their total focus is on crime. And I have to commend the sheriff's department. They're not even nickel and diming people. They're not harassing people for petty mistakes, too. You get to see it. They're just out there maintaining the peace, and they know people are on tenterhooks right now. So just try to give people space. When the beaches were closed, people were just walking right by the sheriff. All they were saying is, "Hey, keep distance, just be smart, use common sense, and we're not going to arrest you guys for getting on the beach." And so LA, though, is going to have a big problem. I would imagine at some point there's going to be massive lawsuits, because my view is, and my wife owns a small business too, and they're shut down, is that my view is that, and I think there'll probably be class action lawsuits that basically say the government did an illegal taking. So they basically took assets, i.e. people's businesses, for the purposes of government action. And therefore, then eminent domain laws are in place and they need to be compensated for that loss. And I would imagine that you're going to see those lawsuits start to show up. Because look, you shut down a small store, but you let Walmart run, okay? I mean, the small store can't practice safe, health practices, but Walmart could shove 1,000 people in their stores where people are walking by each other. I think you're going to see more and more of that civil disobedience, and you're going to see more and more of those legal actions. And you're just going to see people just start ignoring the rule. Once enough people ignore the rule, it's unenforceable.
Absolutely. Now, I saw that in Wisconsin, there actually was a Supreme Court decision which said that the governor of Wisconsin had overstepped their bounds by enforcing this additional lockdown. Do you know what's happening there? I mean, are they just going to open up the state again?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the governor. He appropriated powers that he was not given to by the legislature. And so the Supreme Court had to intervene and basically say, you can't do that. You have to go through the legislature to enact these rules. And the legislature said, we need to open up. You have no authority to lock the state down. Because you have to understand, up until today, when I mean today, I mean this era, you quarantine sick people. You didn't quarantine the healthy. And so they basically are trying to create a novel rule out of the quarantine rules. And I think those are all going to get challenged in court. And look, people gave the government 60, 90 days because we didn't know what we didn't know about this virus. All we saw were people dying in the streets in China, right? Now I figured out that was all propaganda probably too. And so people are like, hey, this thing may kill me. Now everybody's realizing it's not killing them. You look at Florida and Georgia, they opened up, their death rate and hospitalization rates continue to fall. Out here in California, you have, we don't even know anybody that even has it. And I'll give you an example, because they were always saying, maybe this is for the young kids. My daughter, I would say she was leaning idealistic, from a conservative household. Young kids are. I mean, you hear all these things about make the world perfect and not these closed-minded people. And now she lost her job that she loves, ice skating coach. They closed her rink. Her college, she can't go to college, right? So then she has to do online, which is atrocious. And she's sitting there go, Dad, government is stupid. It's for a virus that nobody has. So I think they're losing the kids. And I know we're going to talk about the special election, but I think the politicians are probably realizing, and I know Trump is sensing it, that the people are going to start blaming government for this instead of seeing that the government was a helper to this.
Do you think that's what's happened in California and Wisconsin? I mean, that's where we picked up a couple of additional Republican seats last night. One of them was the California one was Katie Hill. Wasn't she the one that had that spectacular flame out when a bunch of pictures from her mistress and her ex-husband came out? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was it. So. So with these wins, I mean, do you think that this is the beginning of the changing tide? I mean, California, that district for Katie Hill, I mean, that had been blue for a long time. So for this to be picked up, I know it's a special election. I mean, and the rules are kind of different. Different people come out to vote in these special elections. But still, it's flipped to a Republican. And then also the same in Wisconsin. And I actually don't know the status of that Wisconsin seat, whether that was a Democrat or a Republican seat prior to this win. But I mean, is this the changing of the tide? I mean, are people starting to realize what's happening and they're voting differently as a result of it?
Well, yeah, look, well, let's talk the California seat. They gave every advantage to the Democratic person running as they could. First of all, they got approved for mail-in ballots, right? This is the mail-in ballot thing that California wants, for the regular election. They even put voting booths in the Democratic precincts, which they said they wouldn't do. So they still lost by 12 percentage points. That is a blowout, okay? Especially in the district that leans blue. Because you have to realize half that district is what's the northern suburbs of LA, which is extremely liberal. Mm-hmm. And then part of it is western Ventura County, which is a little bit more Republican. But yeah, he blew it out. I think the Republicans are figuring out who they need to run in these districts to win. A strong conservative Hispanic guy is going to blow away a white liberal, I think, any day. And I think in Orange County, we lost every congressional seat that in the last election, and we're really red here. And that was statistically impossible for it to happen, but it did. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of hope that the independents now have realized, hey, government's not here to help me; they're here to own me. Mm-hmm. In Wisconsin, the special election was even a bigger blowout. I think it was like 25 percentage points. So, yeah. So I think the independents are leaning away. And look, anywhere I go, I ask people all the time, "What's your view of this lockdown?" I mean, I just grab people on the street as I'm walking. People are just shaking their heads. They're like, "This is too much, too much, too much." They got to figure out another way. And the government is blind to these people, and I think they're gonna take it out in the voting booth. I was a lot more encouraged this week than I was last week. I was really worried about how this mail-in voting fraud is gonna steal the election.
Yeah.
And then I'm feeling a little bit better about maybe enough people are gonna come out to vote that do not want this for their future. This is climate change. This is what they couldn't do in climate change, they did with COVID. Mm-hmm. And people are seeing, this is what the Green New Deal looks like, folks. You get to live in your home and be broke.
Yeah. Personally, I can't imagine living like this for much longer. I mean, obviously, if it happens, it's necessary. We have to go through it. But I am getting so stir crazy. I mean, I try to go out and do things. There are more people outside than there were previously, but nothing's open. I mean, they won't allow businesses to open. And I hear every single day people talking about how they're at the end of their rope. They don't have any savings. My daughter's, thank God, her restaurant that she works at is finally reopening. They laid off something like 80 to 90% of the staff. Okay, they're reopening with just a skeleton crew, and she's so lucky that they are bringing her back. So I mean, with that in mind, the economy is tenuous at best right now. I mean, the Fed, I think Jerome Powell just refused to go to negative interest rates. And people are saying that we must have additional quantitative easing if they're going to save the economy from imploding. But I had this article from Zero Hedge, and it says that the Fed needs another market crash in the next couple of weeks. Why in the world would we need another market crash? How is that good for the Fed? And is it good for people?
Yeah, I hate the word need. It's going to happen. And I wouldn't call it a crash coming, but we call it in trading the long goodbye. So what happens is we had the stock market crash in March. And then we've had this reaction back. So basically we're down 45%, up 45%, but you're still down 20%, the way that the discounting mechanisms work. Now what happens is that we're going to just slowly roll back down, and we'll probably go down, another 30 to 35% from here before we settle. And that's just the nature of a market dislocation. And now I think what's going to be the catalyst is these lockdowns. I think it was no accident with the LA extending, the market lost its mojo. And people are like, whoa, LA is an engine of economic growth in this country, and they're going to shut it down for 3 more months. And I think reality is setting back in. So we're looking at over the next 3 to 6 months, a pretty rocky road. Economically, the people that lost their jobs most of them are still doing better until the 12 weeks of Fed money runs out. Then they're going to start making less money or no money than they were before. And I think late summer, early fall is when we're going to see some more economic turmoil. But going into 2021, I think they'll probably have this thing right. If the Federal Reserve is going to just buy all the debt that Congress is going to give them. Going negative is really hard for a reserve currency country like the United States to do, because it really, really will screw up the world. I know Trump wants that, but I don't know if he really is thinking through what that really means, because that's basically emptying out the banking system and nowhere in the world for people to go with their money, because the banks will actually be confiscating people's deposits. Oh. And I think that would be basically this a tax on deposits. When you go negative interest rates, it's like banking checking charges on steroids. Okay?
Wow. Okay, I had no idea.
Yeah, so that's a problem. So I think they're going to stay zero, and I think they're just going to pound the economy with just stimulus after stimulus after stimulus. What their head referring about more QE is that we're getting the bond market is getting sticky. It's not going down. So mortgage rates aren't falling and things like that, where people can make money, in the bond market. And the only way to do that is the Fed has to keep buying more agency paper and more bonds. So that's what they refer to about QE. And so what usually forces that action is when the market rolls over hard and it creates a safe haven. And then when people start buying the bonds, the Fed can start absorbing all that paper. So that's what they're going to see about that. So when they say they need a market crash, they need the liquidity to be able to absorb that paper.
Okay. All right. Well, what about that housing market? Because we had talked several months back, and you had said, we're probably going to see, the housing market, kind of drop when prices are going to get better. And yeah, I mean, that hasn't happened. Mortgage rates haven't gotten any better. I mean, are they artificially keeping that where it is just so that they can continue to get, some level of income in?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. They're creating a spread. So they're not dropping mortgage rates. Look, the housing market, it may not show that it's falling, but it's dead. Mm-hmm. Nobody's buying or selling. So once that starts happening again, housing market is going to be, that's going to keep falling. And if you're commercial real estate, you're dead. Mm-hmm. You look at, once this is over, 30% of the workforce is going to be working from home. Mm. Okay, they're not going into downtown anymore. And all that commercial space, and companies are going to renegotiate their leases. Grocery stores are going to do more and more of this, hey, curbside pickup, or we'll deliver it to you. And they're going to chop off like half their retail presence, in the store itself. And they're going to be operating out of lower cost, inventory hubs, if you will. So, if you're looking to buy a home, you're in no rush. I would drive a hard bargain. If you're looking to sell a home, you better make it the prettiest girl in the dance, because you're going to have competition out there.
Oh, excellent. Well, what about anything else, Bob? Is there anything that we're missing here? Anything you're seeing that I haven't brought up?
No, I think you have the pulse on it right. I think, you've been doing the politics. I know we talk more economics, but I think the politics are going to lead the economics. I think Trump I think he's turning on the heat. And I think the markets probably aren't going to like that short term. It's necessary. We know we have to go through this catharsis here. We have to let these politicians know that they cannot, commit these acts of you want to call it treason, but just basically operating their own shadow government as they see fit. And that's going to cause some market turmoil. And I think Trump's probably buoyed now. He's seeing the polling data that says that Democrats overplayed their hand, in a lot of ways. And I think he's going to press his advantage all the way through. It looks like Biden got caught with his hand in a cookie jar.
Sure did.
And that guy's going to be a mess. So I think all that stuff's going to affect the economic landscape too. But you know what? I'll take the pain if that's what it means for reform. So
me too.
That's kind of where we are.
All right, good stuff. I'm in the exact same place. And yes, Biden was in it up to his eyeballs. I can't wait to see what happens. Something tells me he is going to be forced to drop out here real quick. And I also got a report just before we came on the air that Hillary Clinton is expected to run. Everybody's predicting it, but I think that she's actually coming out and hinting at it now. So November should be extremely interesting. I wouldn't mind seeing Trump and Hillary on the same stage again. Should be good.
I know. It's just well, Biden's the only guy that can say he can't recall and people will believe him.
He's got plausible deniability. He really can't. He really can't. All right, Bob. Well, thanks again for coming, buddy. I really appreciate your perspective, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Red. Have a good one.
You're welcome. Everybody, good luck and God bless. Hey guys, it's Red Pill. Just one more thing. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who has taken the time to support this channel. If you'd like to see some ways that you can support the channel, you can always check the show notes in the pinned comment of this video below. Whether you like, whether you share, whether you make sure that your notifications are on, any way that you support this channel means so much to me. I could not be doing this without you, and I could not do it without your help. Without people like you, this channel would not exist. So thank you so much to everyone for all of their many means of support. Don't forget to check out the merchandise store that is also in the pinned comment, and I will see you guys next time.